Hi, I'm ShaKeia Kegler, and I am the one of the hosts of Government Coins. So by now, I figure you've been listening to the podcast. We're 8 episodes in at this point, and we focus on simplifying the conversation around government contracting and also just demystifying the world of government contracting. And we interview different business owners, procurement professionals, small business liaisons, and just people who are killing it in the government space, but can also provide some support and some value to get more small minority women and veteran-owned businesses into the space. And today I have a small business liaison with us as well. She's a small business advocate. She works and always going hard for small businesses. That's how I know her. She has definitely been some help to me in my journey and in going through the process of getting started within the state and local government space. So super excited to have one of my mentors on. So Mimi, she actually worked for the school board previously. And then now, would you mind telling them actually? Let's just let you get it out. She used to work for Miami-Dade Public School. And then I'll just let you do the introduction.
Thank you so much. I was super excited when you first reached out and said, would I be interested in this? I don't really see myself as a person that is doing more than the very strenuous work of supporting small business, but really this is my passion and my hobby and my love, and it's everything wrapped up into one. And so you use the interesting term, right? Small business liaison, advocate. I say counselor, mentor, advisor. I go 24/7 for small businesses.
That is a fact, y'all.
I've held some interesting roles. I was at Miami-Dade County Public Schools Office of Economic Opportunity, the certification and compliance manager for small businesses. I have, oh my God, I did that for about 5 years. My love for small businesses is not just 5 years old. So my love for small business is, I want to say maybe about 30 years old, right? Yeah. Not really my love and my passion, right? Because they have it all together. So I would say I'm a bit of a fixer. And I want to fix things, right? I want to see things scale and grow. Constantly doing SWOT analysis in my head of all spaces, wherever I am, and seeing where I can help people connect and help people connect either with the opportunities, the right people. So, if I'm to describe what I do and what it means to really be a small business liaison, I would say it's a bit of just being ready to be doing whatever I need to do, wherever I need to do it, right? And being able to recognize the opportunity and connect people with those opportunities. I've been known to say I have a lot of relationships, but those relationships are accumulated and amassed for the small businesses to leverage, right? So they do nothing for me. Literally do nothing for me. They are for me to share with the small business communities, the minority business owners. And, I say, listen, talk to so-and-so and tell them Mimi sent you.
And that's an interesting take on it. Because that's actually one of the ways that I reached out to you, through a connection that I had. And as soon as I reached out to you, you were like, okay, you need to talk to this person and tell them I sent you. And I was taken aback by that, because usually people, they kind of sometimes harbor their connections, or they say, well, if you want to talk to them, send me your capability statement and da, 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 da. Or, and I get it. There's nothing wrong with vetting a source before you send them to someone else, because, it goes to like the quality of your connections and referrals and things like that. I completely understand that. So when that happened, I was like, what? Like, and just tell them that, like, that's it. I didn't know what else to do. But yeah, that's a really good take that you put out on that. I would say, would you mind sharing with us a little bit more about the role of being, a small business liaison, or a contracting administrator, or anything like that, like based off of, the roles and the positions that you have held in the past?
Okay, so being a small business liaison, it's, I've just held several roles that fell under there. And so I started out the journey in government contracting doing compliance work. So what the compliance work looked like is making sure that the contracting opportunities, when small businesses are connected to them, they abide literally by the rules in the contract, right? So whatever it is the small business committed to, right? Because a lot of times I think small businesses there's a bit of a disconnect, right? So if you are in construction, right? You know how to do A to Z in construction. You may not necessarily be an expert in contracts. So a lot of times there are small things and minor things. And I would say one of those small minor things is reporting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
Small minor.
Small minor, right? Where if there is a clause in the contract, and usually is with government contracting,
always,
where there is a level of reporting that must occur. Well, if your level of expertise is making sure that the building is built correctly, right? Chances are no one's really paying that much attention to the reporting requirements of that contract.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So in that capacity, my role was to make sure that you were reporting, right? And so if that reporting meant you needed to report employee salaries, or you needed to report for the school board, all employees have to go through a background check.
Yeah.
Making sure that each employee has that background check and have the proper ID.
Oh yeah.
Something as simple as that, right? And so when you think about that on a level of what maybe an OSHA requirement, right? Making sure that everyone has a hard hat and steel toe boots, right?
Got it.
When you bring it, fast forward to COVID, making sure that the employees are wearing the proper protective equipment to be on the job, right?
So you were basically helping manage the contract at that point.
Helping manage that contract and making sure that you are not disqualified or barred from doing government work because of something as simple as making sure that there is signage up if it's wet concrete.
There's, you brought up three good points, actually. So that role as a compliance manager is huge. We talked last week briefly about disparity studies. So even that role, I would love to talk more about how different goals are set, or how they are maintained and managed. And then also what happens if an agency doesn't meet a goal. So that's one question. We'll go through that one before I hop into the other.
Okay. So once the goal is set, the contract is signed with that goal embedded in the contract.
Okay.
So what that means is if there is a goal of 15% small business.
Got it.
The prime who holds the contract, that is one of the requirements that they must meet before that contract could be fully executed.
Okay.
So in order to sign that contract, they have to go through the process of making sure that their subcontractors is getting 10% of the work.
Got it.
And normally what that looks like, we'll say in architectural and engineering contract, right? If the whole project, 100% of the project is awarded to a prime, within their proposal, they have to submit how they're going to break it down, right? So 80% is going to be done by the prime, 10% is going to be done by small business, right?
Got it.
20%, 10% is going to be done, completed by a, let's say, Native American firm, right? So we're just taking one of the subcategories for minority. So what would happen there? That goal of 10% for the small business has to be awarded within the contract to a small business firm.
Got it.
Right? So before you sign the contract, we already know who's going to get that, and they've already been vetted. They're certified as a small business with the entity, and we know that that person, they have the capability because the prime has vetted them, right? Normally the organization, be it federal government or your local government, they have a vetting process and a certification process, and so that firm would theoretically, right, and ideally come from that list of vetted small businesses.
Got it. Okay. I think that is another question too, because so when a prime contractor is looking for a small business to do business with for a different contract, they have to follow guidelines that are usually called good faith efforts guidelines. And there's other processes that they have to say, oh, I looked for these people, I looked for these businesses, and these are the steps that I took. These are some of the businesses that we found. These are the ones who qualified, and we decided to move forward with them on. So we actually have done outreach work before for primes to help them achieve this good faith effort goal. And that just required us doing the basic, going through the different certification portals, finding the possible subcontractors who can fit this bill, and actually sending emails, calling, and doing outreach to them, because we want them to be prepared to go through this process. Now, we did realize through this process that, different prime contractors have different requirements in place in terms of what they want the subcontractors to have. My question is, how do you, I guess, in terms of when it comes down to the good faith efforts for the primes who have different requirements from what the agencies are requiring, is there something that, have you ever experienced something like that where businesses said the requirements are too much? And sometimes they can be, even down to, just the insurance requirement for a small business, some of the requirements for primes. Have you had an experience like that you could share with us?
I've had plenty of experience in that.
I can imagine.
I will tell you that I am not a fan of good faith effort. I do not believe that in a pool, and we'll use Miami-Dade County as an example, right? The goals that are set for small businesses are not egregious. So good faith effort leaves a lot of out for the prime. Absolutely. Right. And so, and not saying that the primes do this, but theoretically, if you wanted to, your good faith effort is just showing that you tried.
I tried.
Right. Right. And so I have, and one of the roles as a compliance manager and a certification manager was I sat in sometimes on negotiations. And so good faith effort was always thrown around.
Of course.
Right. And one of my duties was to make sure I knew who is ready, willing, and available.
Exactly.
So when you tell me that you went through the list and you found no one, I came
Uh-oh.
prepared with a list of 10 people that are ready, willing, and available.
Mm.
And once, if it is not someone on our specific list, then how do we expand with the bandwidth, right?
Exactly.
And get that person certified. And so I would say for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, it was, yes, look in our pool, but then look in the county's pool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then look in the tri-county pool.
That's true.
And bring them to the table. And we would love to certify that sub so that you can meet your goal. So in my role, and I think the Office of Economic Opportunity did a phenomenal job in this, right? In connecting the primes with what it is they're looking for, right? And so unless you're looking for a unicorn that doesn't exist, we should be able to find it, right? And so even with you doing the networking events and what we would call on the government side, the Meet the Prime events.
Of course.
It is for you to connect primes or put a proposal for or bid already, or looking to potentially go after certain work, but need to know what subs are out there that they could potentially use.
Of course.
And so I disagree with the notion that the subcontracting requirements could potentially be a misnomer, and you will not be able to find it.
Of course.
I think if it is, no matter what the work is, that there is a way to incorporate small business within that contract.
Of course. There's definitely a way.
Right. And so even when you have there's a term, strategic sourcing, right? That just means that we have to put on our thinking caps and figure out, right, what does this look like, right? And so if it's a contract purchasing buses, well, we know that small business is not going to be able to provide bus, right? But what does it look like, and how do we include in all the supporting services, right, in procuring those buses, right? Be it maybe it has to be logistics, right? Maybe it has to be, we're going to get the bus bare, and the small business is going to be able to provide the wrap for the bus. Right?
Exactly.
Maybe it's going to be the bus, but it's going to be maintenance for the bus. Right? And so it's important to have either compliance or procurement, preferably both, working along with the prime to strategically come up with how this could possibly work. Right? And so that everyone wins in the situation. And it's not a good faith, it didn't happen. Right? Because
we see that happen all the time.
We started off saying, I don't like good faith, because I just think it can be done.
And
right?
I think when it comes down to those good faith efforts, you have to have someone in place who's actually looking to make it happen. And I think that's why, they decided to work with us, because they knew we were going to find a business, like, at the end of the day. And through that through that report that we did with them, businesses won contracts. They were awarded, and this was in the middle of a pandemic. So $70,000 to a small business in the middle of a pandemic, that's something.
It's a make or break.
Exactly.
It's a make or break.
So I think that is another good point that you bring about breaking down the different contracting opportunities. And we talked about this previously as well, how opportunities have so many different legs. There's so many different areas that you can get into doing business with agencies, and with the primes. So we've talked about this part enough. I want to go into talking more about you and the work that you are doing currently, to help businesses as well. So you can tell us a little bit more about like some of the work you're doing currently, as well. Just let us know.
Thank you. So I've actually started my own firm recently, because I slightly shifted out of government contracting and being a small business liaison and advocate, as far as work.
Yeah.
However, I still felt very disconnected to my purpose, my passion, and my love. And so I created a business. It's called a GovLia Business Consulting. And with everything that I do, it's intentional, right? And so right down to the name of the company, it is not because I thought it was a cute name to say. It is the word agoj is the rigorous training that Spartan warriors went through.
Oh, wow.
Before they went into battle. So before you became a soldier, right, you had to go through sort of a boot camp, and it was many years, right? So you learned philosophy, you learned how to read, you learned mathematics, you learned how to philosophy, you learned everything, right, along with fighting, right? And so like I said, everything is intentional. What I realized working within government, doing this work, is that a lot of times small business was not really ready, right? I think we talked about this, where I said I took this from the soldier's manual, right? When you start working with me, I will tell you, you have to sleep with your boots on. We cannot, when I say it's time to go, I don't want you looking for boots. That's not the time to, realize your boots don't fit, and you took your laces out, because at any point in time, I can, call you and say, okay, it's time to go. And so you have to be ready. What does being ready look like, right? Because I have seen many, many companies miss out on opportunity for the smallest thing, and things that shouldn't be, right? And when I say shouldn't be, I've had an engineering firm miss out on opportunity because they let their license lapse.
Oh man, that's that hurt right there.
And it was not lack of funds. It was, they were supposed to take a training course and they did not, because they'd get to it.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, but realistically, you can't operate without that license. So how?
Realistically, right? And as the owner of a business, I get it, right? You are extremely busy, but at the same time, it is literally the
most important thing. Yeah, like that's the blood.
Correct. But we have people that let their local business tax receipt lapse.
Yep, I'll say that. I've definitely forgot about that before and let that lapse, because it usually doesn't affect me. I can say that. So,
I'm not listening. I'm not listening to that.
Don't cover your ears now. I'm being honest. I'm being open with y'all.
But we're talking $30.
Yeah.
Right. And so those are the things, right? I encourage all small business that I work with to get what I call the Bible, right? And what's in your Bible? Your SunBiz. That needs to be updated. If that is not right, then you literally don't exist.
And this is in Florida. So in
This
Florida,
is
to
in
register with
Florida.
the state, you have to be
It's
registered
Sunbiz.
in sunbiz.org. So this is
Right.
generally just having your business registered with the state.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about.
So that's the basic, and that is throughout the United States, right?
Yeah.
So if your business is not registered as an entity in that state, then the business doesn't exist, right? So when you're ready to go do government work and your business is not registered with the state, you literally don't have a business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Local tax receipt.
Yeah.
Right? So in Florida, most of the counties and the cities have a tax receipt requirement. And it is really just letting the county or the city know that you are here in this and operating. That's it. That's it. And it is such a small fee.
It is.
It almost makes no sense it makes no sense to miss out on opportunity because that's not done.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that. I can see that.
Your resume, right? A lot of bids require your qualifications, right? And so have your resume updated. Have a resume for the business and have that updated.
And that we'll call that the capability statement. So that resume.
The capability statement, and it doesn't need to be, literally your capability statement should be one page.
One page. I just talked about this yesterday on Instagram. I said one page, maximum two. And that's only if you have like products or something that you have to outline the features for. That's different. One page, because
Mimi, not have a 20-page.
Look, how many capability statements do you look through per day? Or did you look through per day?
I still do. I actually had someone reach out to me a couple days ago, and they sent me a novel that was a capability statement, and
you said novel. I'm done.
More than 2 pages. No one's looking past that, right?
Oh my! This is the snippet right here. This is the snippet that's going on Instagram. If it's more than 2 pages, I'm not looking at it. Just
no one's looking at it, right? So you apply that to an elevator pitch, right? Yep, it's literally supposed to be your elevator pitch, right? Seconds. So when I should glance, right? I should know who you are, what you do, if you're certified or not, right? That's it. I don't need to know the children and everything else. That doesn't need to be, and I love the families all the time. I just don't need it on your capability statement.
Yeah, tell me that later, at a later date.
Right. Tell me that when I've helped you get on the contract. Right? When you're making that phone call saying, listen, this is a lot of work, but we're geared for it, we're ready for it, and the entire family is sleeping in the office.
Wow.
Then I want to say yes. Right. That's right. You do have 4 children.
Oh yeah, right? I remember that. The whole family sleeping in the office. Tell us about that contract. Tell us about that one.
I actually, one of my favorite success stories, just a small family owned business who never thought that they were going to do work with government entity, let alone the school board. They did everything right. Everything right. Slept with the boots on, the children, the grandchildren, everybody had their boots on, right? The whole family. And after a few months, it materialized into a $15 million contract.
Lower hammers.
And I will tell you that at one point, I started feeling bad, right? So I didn't know like the grandchildren would be sleeping in the office. Right. And so just so that I can feel less guilty of helping them get this $15 million opportunity,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
I spent about 10 minutes on the floor, right? I said, okay, I'll like sleep on my floor. And then, that way I can
Oh
feel
my
as if I
gosh.
too have gone through the pain. But it was what I would call a beautiful journey,
Of
right?
course.
It was a firm that had been certified for quite a while.
Mm.
Um, I actually called them up to see why they haven't been doing any business.
Oh yeah.
Why have they not ever submitted a proposal? What are the
Mm.
barriers? What does that look like? And how could I support them in that journey to actually, because it makes no sense to be on the list and
If
not
you're not
engage.
gonna, of
You
course.
have to engage. And I think a lot of times, as small business advocates and liaisons, we do not have the time,
Mm.
right, to reach out and say, okay, this person is just sitting on the list. But now that you're certified, what does that look
Look
like?
like
What
for
does
sure.
engagement look like? How can I get you engaged? How can we support you in this office to getting you some work? Right? It's
Absolutely.
wonderful. We want you on the list, but we want you engaged.
Mm.
Right? And so that firm, they listened, they followed direction, they did all of the hard work, because my part is easy, right? I'm just giving directives and direction and suggestions,
Mm.
right? It's up to you, the business owner, to take it and make it something.
Got it.
uh,
You
and
can give it the
and
knowledge, but the execution is on you.
execution, so I don't take credit, because it's their hard work.
Of course.
Their hard work. And they did everything that they were supposed to do.
Mm.
And they just listened. They took the guidance and they executed beautifully, and it
Yes.
landed into a wonderful contract.
Yeah.
And the family, it boomed their business, and it literally put them in another
Of
category.
course, of course. And I think that's the one thing that, I was talking to someone yesterday about it, and they were asking basically, if these large companies are getting the contracts, why do governments work with small businesses? Or why do they have a focus? Or how would you compete with one of these bigger companies? And I said, because they have these different requirements in place to work with small businesses. And they also understand that when these opportunities come available, this is going to put that business on a trajectory that they probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to go through if they hadn't won this contract. So I think about that, and how realizing like the power in procurement. And that's why I started, created the software platform that I was reaching out to you about previously as well, to really streamline it and make it easier to connect businesses, but also businesses with government agencies. And I think, that within itself is like realizing the power that you have working as an employee at an agency, whether it's through procurement, through supplier diversity, the economic development office, being able to understand the power that you wield through this, that's something. And if you're not leveraging that superpower for something good, like what are you doing in this role? Like McDonald's always hiring, and it's easier than what you're doing. Like you can go there. So I mean, I don't know. That's just my take on it. But I'll get off with my soapbox. And I'll ask you one more question, and it's in regarding you are one of a kind. I will say that. Like I have had, look, I'm gonna hype you. I'm gonna let you know you are one of a kind when it comes down to doing the work and also just being passionate about it. And immediately, so Maya Passmore was the one who told me to reach out to you. That's my girl. Culture 44. If y'all need any outreach, look, y'all need any outreach support, look up Culture 44. She'll be able to help you. But she was the one who told me to connect with you. And when she said it, she said, Mimi goes hard for small businesses. And this is how she said, this is Mimi goes hard for small businesses. Like, she is passionate about it. And when I got on the phone with you and we were on the phone for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, wait, you got this kind of time to talk to me? Like, why everybody else don't have this time? Like, why I'm sending 3 and 4 emails to these people? But that's aside of the fact as well. But I wanted to say, being able to be in that role truly showed like you are passionate about it. But how does a business connect with individuals who were in your role? And then also what type of relationship can they build to leverage that position, if that makes sense?
Okay. And that's actually, it's a difficult one, right? Because each entity does it slightly different. And I would say peeling back the layers, right? How do you build the relationships? The relationships, you have to stay engaged.
Yeah.
You have to stay engaged. I know that people sometimes get burned out on going to event after event after event after event, right? But it is okay to go to event after events, right? Because nothing worth having is easy, right? So when you think about opening your business, right? It didn't just pop into your head one day and you said, okay, let me go out and open a business and get a storefront, right? It took work. It took a lot of planning. It took a lot of thinking, right, to actually get it done. It took a lot of shaking hands and kissing babies, like I said, right? And so what you don't know, or, I don't think you know this, but we had met several times. I
remember meeting you at an event, at multiple events, outreach events.
Right, right. And so I didn't know how I could help, right? What role I could play, right? Just because at the time, my position really didn't require your service and I didn't really know where I fit in that picture, right? And so the first time I met you, I said, I took your business card and I said, I'm going to help you. Right? We exchanged business card. I went one way, you went the other way. Yeah. Then I met you again at, I want to say Broward and Beyond.
Broward and Beyond. That was the one I was
okay. Broward and Beyond. And I went out of my way to make sure that I got another business card. Yeah. Right? Right? And I picked up all your stuff and I said, again, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know how I can help her, but I know that she has something, right? And so in whatever capacity, I'm going to support her, right? I put that down, and not until way later, right? I think it was maybe the next year, right? The next year, then you reached out and I had all your stuff. And I was like, okay, how can I help? Right? Because I myself was waiting for the opportunity to see how I could help you engage.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think a lot of times when it doesn't happen the first time or the second time, right, we give up.
Yeah.
As small business, because we have everything else going on, we tend to just give up. And we have to be mindful of that, because anything worth having, right? And it was a great conversation the first time that we actually had a conversation, but I had been low-key stalking you, right? Because I've been like, I think what she's doing is great. I just don't know how how can I support, right? And I think a lot of times we miss out on the opportunities because we don't continue fostering the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing is, I think small business, we have to manage expectation, right? As a small business owner, you have to manage expectations, right? So I do flooring and I have a 4-man crew that I work with, right? I shouldn't realistically be trying to connect with someone who is going to help me get an opportunity that is going to be building 400 units, right? Because I'm I've got 4 guys.
Got it.
Right. So what does that look like? Right. So my bonding is going to need to be way higher than my capacity.
Of course, the requirements are going to be there.
Exactly. And God forbid, right? You get that contract, what you can't do it.
Yep.
Right. And so in building that relationship and making sure that you go to those events, because what's going to happen is at some point, I am going to know who you are. At some point, someone else in position is going to say, hey, let me introduce you to Bob. Bob has a company and he has 400 units, right? But in that contract, there is an opportunity for him to sub some of the work. So that, knowing me, I've now introduced you to Bob, and Bob, you and Bob could work together on a small project where Bob is only going to give you 10 units to do, right? Yeah. But then you have increased your capacity and now you're part of Bob's network. And when Bob gets an opportunity for a small 2 schools, Bob can say, you know what? Mimi has done great work and I want to go ahead and pass that on because I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity to take on 2 additional schools.
Yep.
Right.
That's a good point.
If that makes sense.
It does. It definitely full circles to the last episode. One of our business owners, and I'm gonna get back to the question that I asked, but one of the business owners started out in doing subcontracting work. And then her name is Christine, and she started doing subcontracting work with a prime. The prime ended up finding a opportunity and they were like, no, it's not worth it for us to go through it. They bid on that project with her as a prime and them as a subcontractor. So, you know, that's full circle, like 2 episodes in a row. Someone has talked about that. So that just bringing that up to everyone who's listening.
Right. So those are the things. The other thing is mentorship opportunities, right? And so you don't know about the mentorship opportunities, but I do. Right. And so again, Bob has had tremendous success. And now Bob is looking to give back to the small business community. He's entered the mentor protege program.
Of course.
Right. And so you now are able to work with Bob to build capacity. Bob is going to help you build capital, right? And connect you with resources that can help you build. And just like Christine, Bob can help support you by coming in as a sub, right? Or partnering with you so that you can gain that opportunity. But that doesn't happen in a bubble or in a silo. That only happens if you have the relationship.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So you have to, and this is one thing that has been consistent in every single podcast that we've had is the power of relationships. And it also goes to that whole quote, you know, your network is your net worth.
Is your net worth.
That's how, yeah. So look, I almost had it wrong. But, you know, realizing that the power in people and just seeing, you know, even just realize they don't even have to work in an agency. Maybe they know someone who works in the agency. And like you said, we have multiple encounters and I know I still have your business card here in my house. But it wasn't until Maya brought it up again that actually forced me to say, oh yeah, let me do this. Because I have like a few different emails. Business cards from people that day. So, you know, I just have them in my little bucket. When you get home, you add them into the CRM system. And that was pretty much, you know, as far as I went with it at the time. So
no, and I got to tell you that you clearly made an impression, right? Because I think before we met, I actually had someone else tell me, right? Oh, you need to meet this young lady. She's dynamic, right?
Oh, wow.
So that was Haynes Security.
Oh, yeah.
So Haynes Security said to me, you should connect with this person because she's doing something great. And I knew what you were doing because I picked up, a couple of times. And even when I said, what is she doing? And he said, oh, she's doing something with technology, but I think if the two of you connect, you may have opportunity. He knew it was technology, but he said, I just think you guys should connect. Right. And I said to him, I know exactly who she is. I know exactly what she's doing. And and I'm here to support her. I just don't have an opportunity yet.
Yeah.
And so even with that was you networking, right, through your network, right? Because people would say, oh, do you know this person, right? And he wasn't the only person that said, do you know who she is? And so even if I didn't know, I definitely would have made a beeline to find out, right? Because some people, I am one of those people that, again, the opportunity may not be immediate, but I kind of log people in, right? And so when the opportunity arises, I will connect you with that opportunity. Even if it's not with me, right? Even if it's not with me.
That's a good one. I like that. Man, this has been a really good podcast. I feel like we talked through a few different areas. So far, we haven't had a lot of people come in and speak to, state and the local government space. So your perspective from working at the school board, it helps a lot. We had people in from federal government space. A lot of my connections are in the federal space because that's what I focus on so much now. When I was working, the the state and local space, that does require a lot of getting to know people, staying in front of people. And I see that as a huge opportunity to get some business within your own backyard. So I want to thank you for definitely coming in and speaking about that.
Thank you. And I just want to say too that I think you recognized your market.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think your market is federal.
Of course.
More so. And that's one of the things too that I don't think as business owners, right, we are so focused on being the technical expert that we don't tend to be, experts in market analysis. And I think you did a great job in knowing where your niche would actually be.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that is more so your niche, right? Whereas I have people that fixed airplanes and they wanted to do work with the school board.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can see that. So and it's funny that you say really that because people would say, like, I focus. So we actually designed and built the technology for the state and local space for the supplier diversity engagement platform because everyone's processes are different. So with that in mind, it only makes sense, right? Because at the federal level, the federal government has SAM.gov. Everybody registers in SAM. All of the businesses who do business with the federal government are in SAM. So we were essentially trying to bring that to the state and local government space. And it'll allow them to maintain that individuality, but leverage the benefit of having all of the certified firms, all of the small businesses in one platform. Like, so to me, realistically, we created it for the state and local space, and it still can be used there. But when I look at it from an aspect of, I don't spend so much time in one area. I am the queen of pivoting. I A/B test everything. So that phase of me working, trying to get into the state and local space, I look at that as an A/B test. Like I tested it. I tested this approach. I tested that approach. I tested this approach. It worked for some agencies, some it didn't. So like we still have agencies on the platform. We have like 14 agencies on the platform. But then I moved to the state and local space. And I realized, and then I moved to the federal space and I realized the importance of just the technology alone. And that's pretty much what it was. So just, now we just license out the software for our training academy and for the supplier engagement platform because they use it for different things. So I think that is a good point. Like, I'm happy that you say that, but to me, it just seems like a bunch of like trial and error.
But it'll, I think it will come, right? It will come. I think because state and local is more immediate,
Yep.
right? We tend to look at it as the starting point always.
Got it.
It is not always the starting point. It is not, right? Because sometimes, right, things they grow, but they grow from the outside in.
Ooh.
Not necessarily expanding. I think when we think of expansion, we think of this way, right?
Yep.
But things expand differently, right? As they consolidate, right?
Oh.
So a diamond, right, is not formed. It's actually bigger, right, as a piece of coal, right? And so I think that we can't look at it as a fail necessarily. It's just a different approach. It's a different approach.
Yes, the pressure is necessary. That pressure is necessary. So
right. And then everybody wants it once it's a diamond.
Look, when it become a diamond, the price is going up. Just so you
listen,
like you said, yesterday's price is not today's price. So
correct. So we think about Bitcoin, right? Yeah. Like I remember when Bitcoin when I said, what is that?
What is it?
What is it? And why would you want it?
Yeah, that don't make sense, right? And now look at it, making
now I'm like, wait, it didn't make sense before, but now that I get it, right? I want it, right? Yep. So I think you have to look at it that way, because not every product or every service has the same entry point.
For sure.
And I think it's important that as small business that we understand that, okay, this is not my entry point.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean give up and that there isn't an entry point.
It means pivot or test out a different approach or market. And correct. That's a good look. Man, this has been a good episode. Okay, look, because I know we're going to keep talking. I know we are already over the time, but thank you again so much for coming. How can people connect with you?
We can connect with me. I'm a little bit old school, so I have via email, and it is Agoge, AGOGE, CHIC, Agoge Chick @gmail.
Okay. And then also, you're on LinkedIn. Do you mind if people connect with you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn. What's my LinkedIn?
That's right. I think it's Mimi. I think it's your name.
It is. Okay. It is. It's my name. It's again, I'm so sorry.
And don't worry, I'll have the links and stuff. I'll have those in the chat and for people to be able to go out and check them out.
So it's Mimi Louizi, Louizi, on LinkedIn. And then I'm also on Twitter.
Oh,
I know. And, funny thing about that is I was the first person to go get Twitter, right? And nobody knew what it was. And then I was like, oh, I have Twitter.
I'm already on.
Yeah, but then, I was like, what is this? So it's Mimi Lou _ AGOGE.
Got it.
On Twitter.
Okay, don't worry. I'm going to have all of these links in the chat for you to reach out to Mimi. When I tell y'all, she is literally the GOAT of helping businesses get started, get into this space. And she gonna tell you straight up. That's another thing about Mimi. The way it come out is the way it come out. If it hurt your feelings, don't take it that way. It's coming from a place of love.
I'm from the South Bronx, and so I normally ask for apology in advance. I apologize for the rough edges in advance, but I do come from a neighborhood, and my upbringing was a leave no man behind. type of neighborhood. So sometimes I drag people to success, kicking and screaming.
Drag them. That's it. All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for stopping through. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you also share this video. You can share this video and this podcast. If you're listening to it and you listen to it on Apple Music or on Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting medium, you can share this. Share this with someone that you know needs to hear this information, or someone that you feel can scale their business through doing business with government agencies. And then also, if you're checking this out on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share this on social media, so that way we can continue to get more information. If you have a request for an agency or someone that you think would be great for this podcast, drop that in the chat as well. Any questions that you may have for us, leave them in the chat and we'll answer them in our next episode. But again, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thank you.